scripted. Everybody watching at home, just a little intro and a hello. I know I didn't advertise this, but this is an Earful Tower live show at the Apres Midi monthly event with Adrian Leeds. Do you want to say hello to the camera?
Hi everybody, we're at Apres Midi and this is Oliver G.
So, anyone watching at home and or watching the replay afterwards, what we're about to do is we're about to interview people in this crowd at Adrian's event. There's about 4,000 people in this massive stadium that we're at. No, just kidding. So we're going to be going doing a quick round interview with lots of people. If you got comments, send them through, and Lena, who's holding the camera, might ask them out as well.
And this is the hot seat.
This is the hot seat where Adrian
I better let loose.
You were just here to bring the ratings in from the beginning. They're here now. Maybe we'll follow.
I've done my thing, I'm done.
Thank you. Let me know if there's any audio problems or anything, but let's get started. And hopefully you guys all enjoy hearing a few stories from your fellow Apres Midi guests. And I hope you guys at home learn something about Paris. They're going to be a little bit tourist related. The first, what I've done is I've circled the interesting bits on what you guys wrote as a sort of introduction. And here you go. So the questions for anyone that hasn't read them, I wrote just 3 easy things. What's your favorite thing to do in Paris? What's your Paris secret or hidden spot? And what's your top tip for a tourist? And this person, I thought it was kind of interesting. They said their favorite secret spot was the gardens behind the Hotel de Sully. I don't know anything about that. So Craig Carlson, who's in the audience.
Come on down.
Come on down!
One of a secret, I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune, so anything with a game show. Big money, big money.
Sorry to disappoint you from the beginning. No prizes. Oh,
that's all right.
But you're so interesting. I kind of put you on top on purpose because I want to interview you on the show anyway, and I hope that's something we see. Does that look alright the way we're sitting?
Yeah, it's great.
Craig Carlson. So you're an author and restaurateur.
Restaurateur.
See, I knew that without reading anything.
Yeah.
But I figured we'd before we get to the Hotel de Sully. We'll just talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I want to have you on the show anyway.
Sure. So, I have 2 American diners here called Breakfast in America.
It's weird that you don't know whether to talk to the people on the camera.
I don't know where to talk to people or whatever. And I was hoping in the 3 minutes I had that we could come up with a jingle. Could do something like, we had pancakes. That would be great.
The question, Craig, is when are you going to use your jingle? When people buy stuff?
When people walk in the door, you know.
You're gonna sing it? Okay.
Sure.
We need to get our band on that one.
Yeah, right.
First, we need to get a band.
We get the whole band together.
That's actually how. When I got the jinglers, the very first episode, we had a band.
Yeah.
Slim and the Beast come in and do live music, and they made a jingle on the spot. That's the only reason I got. So it's you need to get a band. It's the easiest.
Oh boy, that'd be tough.
But I got a question before we get on to the gardens and the Hotel de Sully. Is so you've written a book about starting up a restaurant, an American food restaurant in Paris, and you've been touring with that book for like going to bookshops and stuff for quite a while, right?
For a year.
Does it get hard doing that?
You know, it doesn't, because in different parts of the country, we've been going all over the country. It's a whole different vibe.
You say the country, in France or America?
Oh, in America? Not so much in France. I just got back from Madison, Wisconsin, and the University of Madison.
We got someone from Wisconsin.
Anyone here? Wisconsin? And who knew that? No one. That's too bad.
There's definitely not 4,000 people.
Oh, okay. Well, there's been like a 100-year tradition in Wisconsin with France, and 30 students showed up to my reading, and they all spoke like amazing French, like better than me after living here, 16 years, and it was just quite amazing. So they knew the French culture, so we could talk about the insider whole thing, and other people had never been to France. It's a dream, and so they asked me questions about that.
Which state or city is the most popular for your book? Where have you found the most? The most francophone.
You can actually, when you go on the Amazon, you can see, and actually the LA area is the biggest.
This is something I've talked. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Don't worry. You get like 4.5, 5, because I really wanted to interview. But I think weren't we talking about how in in LA and especially San Francisco, there's just this huge intrigue. California, a huge intrigue in France, and we're trying to pin down what it was. Do you have any theories?
I don't know. Well, San Francisco, they always say, is the most European of cities, right? So I think there's partly that, the culture and all this. And LA, I don't know, people, I used to work in the film business a little bit, and they're always looking for an excuse to film in Paris because they love the city so much.
Isn't it really hard to film in Paris?
That's a good question. There's so much going on now, so much filming going on, so many Netflix series and everything, so I think you can get permits, no problem.
I think the next obvious question is, are we going to see a movie based on your book?
We might. We're just trying to think of who would play me. Any ideas?
No, that's the next question.
Matt Damon.
No, that's the next
Oh,
question.
wow, nice.
George Clooney, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
She's meant to be marrying
Lena
me.
wants a free meal. You're dying.
But who would be your dream? Who do you think is the most dream realistic person to play you?
Well, Bradley Cooper, obviously.
Oh!
Only because he speaks French. And not a lot of people know that. He speaks French. So it's like, but I thought he'd be fun. But I don't know.
Okay, well, let's get on to what you've written here, because I don't know anything about the gardens behind the Hotel de Sully. Talk, and remember there are people watching at home who aren't in Paris, and people here who maybe don't know, including me.
Yeah.
What is the Hotel de Sully?
Well, Place des Vosges is pretty famous, right? Everyone knows that with the arches. And it's the 16th century, right? The old court, I believe the city. 1600s, 17th century. And it was a French person who showed me. I think it'd be the southwest corner of it.
It's not your turn, Adrian. Hang on, southwest corner where you go.
Yeah, there's this little portal there, and you go through, and there's an old garden. And
there's a big circular sort of, it looks like a stained glass window without the glass window in there. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. And so there's also a museum there and everything, so I think that's a nice little secret.
And I got something on that as well. The door on the other side when you walk into the hotel has the best door knocker.
Oh, does it? No, I haven't
It's
noticed
got two coiled snakes wrapping around each other. I'm obsessed by door knockers. I was going to say knockers and knobs.
Any broomsticks?
And then another thing we get through, what you said, your top tip for a tourist, other people said, so I'm going to let them do that one. A lot of repetition in people's answers here, which maybe is a good thing. Not for a live show, perhaps. No. The thing you've written is the old art house cinemas. I've never been to an art house cinema here. Watching Greta Garbo films as you've written. Where's the one place that we need to go to check out?
It's called Desperado, but I think it's changed its name recently, and they still actually show on 35mm print. And a geek in me, the film geek in me, was so happy just to watch the 35, and then it just got jammed and it just turned and melted. I was like, oh, just like the old days. And they put it together and ran the film again. So if you want to really go back to another time, and they're all subtitled. And
great.
It's a lot of fun because it's harder and harder to find these cinemas, especially in America. They're almost non-existent. So.
Okay, good answers. Last question before I let you go and we get on to the next person is, what is next for Craig Carlson?
What is next?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully another book I'm working on.
Okay.
And who knows?
Do we get to hear a little bit about the next book?
No,
we don't. Let's try.
Yeah, that's worth it.
All right. Well, on that note, we can.
I can get up. Yes.
Hopefully we'll do an episode soon, Craig. That would be really fun. And a video maybe. We can walk around a walk show.
Yeah.
You up for a walk show?
Yeah. Walk around the kitchen and down there.
Yeah, that's something for you guys watching at home. Craig Carlson, buy his book. Next person here, another one that I purposely put towards the top, April Pet from April in Paris.
Hello.
So how you doing? So does everybody in this room know April?
Yes.
I guess they wouldn't have said no though, would they?
Not yet.
So, April, you run April in Paris tours. You've become a regular on the Eiffel Tower. Having fun?
Great time.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I paid her to say that one. No, but so I also said before you sat down, I said you can write anything you want there because I'm going to get you up no matter what. Because April, when she comes on the show, she's got a really, she's a perfect guest for the Eiffel Tower because she knows all the secrets of Paris. And when she came on, I think the first episode was the streets, that was the one that we did?
Yeah.
So what we did is I asked her, I let you prepare instead of putting you on the spot. but she had a street for every single arrondissement, the best street in every of the 20 districts of Paris, including the Front Bourgeois here, right? And a lot of people have been emailing me and sort of saying, you know, I went to your tips. Yeah, people love it. In fact, someone here was talking about it right before. I think they'll come up later. Anyway, because you didn't write something, I'm going to have to put you on the spot a little bit here.
I'm too busy talking.
No, but no, one thing I did notice that you wrote is you wrote the Paris secret or hidden spot. You've written the biggest park in the whole city.
Yeah, but the Bois de Vincennes, I'd have to say, you know, it's one of the biggest parks in the city, sure, but not many tourists, even locals, venture out there, and it's just so beautiful. It's escaping the hustle and bustle of Paris. It's right at the end of line 1 on the metro.
So it's on the eastern side, right?
Yeah. You can take line 8 there as well, and it's a beautiful forested area. You can cycle, you can hike. There's 4 man-made lakes. You can rent little boats, have a picnic. It's amazing, and it's just off the beaten path. People might think it's so far out from Paris, but you just take the metro, jump off, and you're right in the thick of the woods. Really.
Some people would criticize it, saying that at nighttime there are a lot of.
That is Bois de Boulogne. That's the other
Let me finish. Some people would criticize it, saying there are a lot of prostitutes, and we would answer, no. That's Bois de Boulogne. I knew as well.
The west side. We're saying the east side.
Yeah, east side. I got it wrong. That's the truth is though. It's great having people on the show because you know, like I said at the start, you know this stuff. I don't know this stuff, and neither do a lot of the listeners or the people watching at home. And I don't know. By the way, who here lives in Paris? Can I have a show of hands? No. Oh, yeah. What do we reckon? 70%? Okay. So yeah, a lot of these people even here maybe don't know this kind of stuff. So it's good to be set straight when I get my forests confused. But your top Paris tip here, you said take time to smell the roses. I mean, literally?
Yeah. Well, you know, if you go to the Rodin Museum when the roses are in bloom,
Seventh arrondissement.
Yeah, but I didn't mean it literally. Take time and smell the roses. The problem that I find, most tourists come here and they want to visit every single monument and museum and church, but it's just nice to kind of wander about, find a terrace, have a coffee or a glass of rosé, you know, and just watch the world go by. So, you know, don't try to check everything off your bucket list, but just make time to, you know, for free time, just to wander and get lost in the Parisian streets.
I think a lot of people come here thinking that Paris is like a checklist, and they have like maybe, you know, the 20 things they want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And then they.
I often get requested cram all of those 20 things into one day, you know, and yeah, but then you don't really get to live the spirit of Paris if you're doing that. So, yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot to finish up,
okay.
And I'm going to say the 3. I literally want 3 popular tourist destinations that you'd recommend for someone who's coming here and they do have a checklist.
Okay.
And they're like, I don't know what to say, but I need to see 3 things.
Okay.
What should they definitely see first time visitor?
The Eiffel Tower. I love it. No matter how many times I see the Eiffel Tower. You don't have to go up the Eiffel Tower, but I would definitely say also visit a market. We know this, don't we? And well, pick up some goodies and then maybe have a picnic by the Eiffel Tower, or see it from the boat and take a river cruise in the evening to capture the essence.
But now they got these big, they got the big fence around them.
Yeah, but you can see it like on the boat, for example. You won't see it. Sit further back on the Champ de Mars, have your picnic, and just take it in all the glory.
So Eiffel Tower's 1, 2.
Yeah. Montmartre. Yeah, so many people think it's very far out of the city when you're looking at the map, you know, because it is in a northern kind of arrondissement. But from the top of the hill there, you can get a beautiful view of Paris from above. And Sacré-Cœur is probably my favorite church in the city.
Okay,
yeah.
3, lastly, the 3rd thing you have to see.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I've never been up to the top.
Okay.
I can involve people. Who has been to Notre Dame but not the top? Are we missing out? The whole room. You've not been to the top. As a tour guide, though, can you recommend people? Do you recommend people to go over there?
You know, there is a beautiful panoramic view from the top. You come face to face with the gargoyles and Quasimodo, but there's other great views from above. So you do not have to waste all your time waiting in the line or for your ticket with your time slot. Now, you know, you could go to the top of the Pompidou, for example, for a great view of the city.
And
So,
is it free to get up there as well?
no, the Pompidou, yes.
There you go, free for you. And last thing I want to say, we're going to do a walk show soon.
The 28th?
28th.
We said,
So
yeah.
you guys, and you guys in this room, if you do join the group, you'll get to see that as well. The 28th, what was it, Montmartre?
Montmartre, sunrise.
We're going to do a sunrise.
Yeah.
We should have done them all at sunrise. Okay, well, yes, April in Paris Tours. These guys there already know you. Anyone in the room doesn't know, aprilinparistours.com. Follow our Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff.
Come and say hello.
Indeed.
I'm here.
Thank you for
There.
being on the Earful Tower again.
Thank you.
Okay, I like the next guest answer, because when I wrote "What's your favorite thing to do in Paris," they said, "Look into open windows." That's a bit voyeuristic. Who was that? I think it was.
Is it me?
It was you actually.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's Carolyn. Hello, it's Carolyn. How you doing, Carolyn?
I'm good, thanks, Ollie.
So,
Hi, everybody.
Carolyn, your voice has been on the Earful Tower before. You haven't been a full guest.
True. I'm waiting for my
Wait
invitation.
for the invite. This is it. You're third in line. But I wanted to hear, because Carolyn, I know. Oh, well, you can tell the people.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Paris?
I've been in Paris over 6 years, and so Oliver and I actually met back in Western Australia.
That's true. It's a good story. It's
Can I tell the story
yeah,
quickly?
please do. Yeah.
So I arrived back in Western Australia from a trip for a holiday. Arrived back in my old workplace at Fremantle Arts Centre. Walked into the shop right as my old colleague was saying, "And here she is." And I literally walked in while Oliver, who'd been to school with her son, was chatting with her about how he was moving from Sweden to Paris.
Essentially, it was a really odd. We were talking about Carolyn, who lived in France, and I was talking about how I was moving to Paris, and she said, "Oh, I know a girl in Paris, Carolyn. You should meet up with her, but she's in Paris. She's in Paris."
And then I walked in.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Oh, hi, yeah, sure, here's my card, we can have a coffee."
As if everyone's talking about you.
Yeah, well, you know.
It was just like that. It was great.
Perth is a small, big town,
That's
so
true.
it's likely that people run into each other that they know. So I said, "Here's my card, pick me up, we can have a coffee or a wine, and you can meet my friends, and I can show you my side of Paris."
You said, "I can show you my side of Paris. I like looking in windows."
I didn't say that, I think. Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd write something funny. I
You got
initially
my
wrote,
attention.
"Keep me
And
in
then
the
you
park."
crossed out. But I
thought
want to
that
know.
was boring.
No, but it's actually an interesting. Oh, and then so we came to
Yeah.
Paris and we met and we hung out. And
Yeah.
but what you wrote is actually interesting, because I want to hear you've lived in Paris for 7 years.
Yeah.
This idea of this secret Paris, courtyards that you can walk into, or maybe you shouldn't, windows that maybe you shouldn't look in, or maybe you should. What's your opinion as a Parisian woman?
Oh, definitely. I think Europeans are maybe a little more open with their private life in some respects. Like, they don't necessarily always have curtains on their windows. They don't mind if people look in and see them. You know, so I think they like to show off what they've got going on. They invite their friends around to enjoy their interiors of their homes. So whenever there's an invitation to visit someone's home, even if it's for a soiree or an apéro or something, I'm always like, yes, absolutely, because I just love to have a look at the way they've decorated it, the neighbourhoods they live in, and often from the outside you have no idea what you're actually going to see inside. Like, you might...
Everyone just nodded their head at once then.
Yeah, you might think you've got like a Haussmannian building, and in fact it is on the front. But for example, when I first arrived, I was nannying, and the family happened to live in a repurposed factory, textile factory out the back, that was a series of 8 3-story buildings, and they all had like separate terraces with a shared courtyard, and children about the same age, and they all got to like play football together in the courtyard with the tree. Beautifully architectural building and interior design and all of that, but you would not know from the outside that could exist behind closed doors. So yeah, absolutely, if there's some doors open, have a peek in and ask nicely to go in.
Or just walk right in, right? And then
Forget the formality.
well, that's a lot of people. In fact, a lot of people wrote the importance of saying bonjour, which maybe we get someone that wrote that. So don't avoid the formalities too much. But one more thing that you've written here: look up where the
grenier. Yeah.
Can you explain that as if people don't know, like?
So it's like the flea markets that locals can participate in, and they happen almost every weekend. I think in Paris. There's a website. I think it's videgrenier.fr. You could probably Google it and come up with the list. And basically, I stumbled across one on the weekend with my old boss, who I was meeting for a coffee, and I said, "Oh, let's wander around here because this is such a great way to just get a bit of atmosphere. You can see what people are buying and selling. There's like often they're selling antiques and different merchandise, but the ones that are the most interesting are people that are like clearly selling the stuff from their house that they no longer need.
Good bargains.
Good bargains.
Okay.
Picked up a little lace dress the other day.
Isn't there one of these on this very street? They have.
Yeah, they often have. That's a really good one.
By the way, at home, we're on Rue. It's de Bretagne or just Rue
de Bretagne.
Rue de Bretagne in the third arrondissement. In case you want to look it up on the map, but there's a good one there as well.
Yeah,
right?
and all the sellers often know each other, so you see the banter that goes on, and they've always got their funny little dogs. They're all sitting around having some pastis and something to eat. They probably don't really care if they sell anything, but you just sort of want to be a part of that atmosphere. I think it's really definitely what I like and enjoy that.
Great answers, Karen. Thank you for being in the hot
Thank
seat.
you,
Thanks for coming in. Thanks, Karen. This one made me laugh, by the way. It said, where I wrote, what's your favourite... I haven't forgotten about the people behind either. Sorry that we're...
I've moved up, I think.
Okay. It said, where I'd written, what's your Paris secret or hidden spot? They wrote in capital letters, if I tell you, I must kill you.
I don't know what that is.
Lisa Anselmo. I didn't even read the rest of what you wrote.
They're giving away all our best secrets. And,
That's the whole point of the podcast. So for people who don't know, I'll give you a little introduction. Lisa Anselmo was one of the very, very first guests on the Earful Tower. I think you were like one of the first.
number 4.
Four.
And thank you so much for that.
Hey, no, thanks for coming on.
It was so much fun.
So that was like that would have been like a year and a half ago.
It was
or something
December
like that.
2016.
Yeah, it was December 2016, right? And so you came on because you just fairly recently published a book.
Yep, my part-time Paris life, a memoir about finding purpose anew in Paris.
And have you found purpose?
I think so. I found the person that was missing because my mother had passed away from cancer and she had been the center of my world, and I realized I hadn't built a life on my own terms. And I came here to my happy place and everything came flooding toward me. Who I had been, who I was meant to be, what I wanted to do. And the book was one of those things that came when I took the risk to change my life.
Like, was it like a therapeutic kind of thing to write?
Oh, it was incredibly therapeutic. I always tell the story of the third rewrite when my editor begged me.
Rewrite?
Yes.
How many rewrites do you have to do on the book?
Yeah, my editor wanted me to dig deeper. And I'm sitting at this tiny table in this rental apartment looking at Boulevard Voltaire, and the pile of tissues was mounting. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, it was incredible.
How many rewrites does it take to write a book? I mean,
3, I
is it
think.
3? So I've no
I only
idea.
had 6 months to write it, and I'm a perfectionist, so for me that was the worst, but I had a wonderful editor, and I did the first draft, and she sort of helped me find the thread throughout, and we reorged, and then she said, I really like it, we could publish it right now, and it could be a good book, but would you like it to be a great book? I mean, what am I going to say? No, publish it now!
Did you say reorged?
Yeah, I reworked it.
Is that sort of reorganized?
Yeah, sorry, that's like
totally
my old world in corporate, in the corporate world
I
just
like
came
it,
out.
reorged. I might reorg the order in this on the
Reorged
way.
it.
Reorged. But I mean, anyone that wants to hear the full story, I mean, buy the book first,
Thank
obviously.
you, my part-time Paris.
Or listen to episode 4 to get a 25-minute taste of you talking about the book. It's so fresh for you then.
It was.
I think you even read it from it. On that
I did. I don't remember what it was, but I did. Or maybe the leak. Something
That
about
seems
the
like
leak.
such a long time ago.
It was.
Crazy. Okay, but I know you said that if you tell me, you must kill me.
I know.
Tell me more.
Well, it's funny. I've lived in the same neighborhood for 6 years.
Which neighborhood?
It's I'm near Nation.
Okay.
I'm between Nation and in the 11th on the east side of town. I'm 2 stops away from the Bois de Vincennes, in fact.
The Bois de Vincennes, which some people think is on the western side of Paris.
It's on the eastern side.
Sure.
I can actually walk. I mean,
Okay, cool.
it's lovely.
So you're in the trendy 11th. A lot of people are calling it the trendy 11th.
Well, I'm not so trendy. It's not so trendy,
No?
but it's getting trendier,
Okay.
and it's part of why I'm afraid to tell people about it. But I had been always sort of traveling toward the Bastille and toward the 12th, and I had really neglected this little group of streets called Village Charonne. It's really the 20th, but I'm where I am is the cusp of the 20th, the 12th, and the 11th. And it's wonderful. It's just all these tiny little streets and passages where these former ateliers and these bunch of little houses, and you feel like you're suddenly in the country or in a little town just outside of Paris, and you're in the heart, what I think is the heart of the city, but it is considered, the 20th is considered like, you know, the heart of it.
So we get so between the 11th and the 20th. So that's kind of like near like Père Lachaise area, sort of.
Yeah, it's just sort of due east of Père Lachaise, I would
Okay.
say. I'm sure April could correct me more specifically, but it's sort of this little group of streets, around the area of Père Lachaise, a little further east, and it's full of little shops and little restaurants, but also a lot of old pubs and bars and that have been there forever, and these wonderful little houses and cobbled streets, and I never, 6 years, I never knew it was there, so it was hidden from me as well.
Wow. So what's it called? Village Charonne.
Charonne.
So your secret is out. Village, tell them.
Don't go, don't!
Village Charonne.
Clean up your
minds. You have to kill everybody here now.
It's worth sharing. It's really, that's what I love to say to people, like, get out of the center of town as quickly as you can and find these other places where real Paris lives, shops, eats, plays. This is, if you really want to understand Paris and really take it into your heart, go to where the locals live. And this part of Paris is just, it's wonderful. It's such a surprise.
We should do a walk show then.
I would love
Do a
to.
walk show?
I would love to.
Okay, cool. That's
It's
what we'll
really
do.
sweet there.
Well, one more thing I want to talk about is that you've written here your favorite thing to do is to sit in cafes.
Nothing.
Well, you did write nothing.
It's like a show about nothing, a life about nothing.
Yeah.
It really is my favorite thing to do.
To sit in a cafe. Well, you have a coffee, I assume.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I come from New York where it's always about going and achieving and doing and schmoozing. And you can't sit in a cafe and just have a coffee or a glass of wine. It's, eat, it's like, eat, pay, get out. Like, eat, pray, live. Eat, pay, get out. You have to eat.
It's not as catchy.
It's not quite as
Don't
catchy.
use that
And
in
it's
the
not
next
as inspiring.
Eat, pay, get out.
You can't just sit in the terrace.
Hang on, so if it's eat, pay, get out. Eat, pay, get out.
We need the terrace.
Craig loves it. He's not
The
gonna
title of
mind
his next book. Oh no.
That's kind of like
it. Eat, pay, get out. But if from your
I always say eat, pay, leave, so that's even better. It's even a better
Well, what would it be in, so if that's New York, is eat, pay, leave, what would a French or a Parisian cafe be? The same, eat.
Stay, we're going to ignore you for a while, and maybe we'll take your order, and you'll pay 2 hours later. And if you're in a hurry, that's a pain, but if you're not, that's heaven.
Because a lot of people maybe don't, even people who don't live here maybe don't understand. If you go to a cafe and sit on the terrace and buy one espresso, you own that.
You own it until you ask for the l'addition. The moment you ask for the check, now you got it.
Yeah, but people honestly will sit for,
Yeah.
I mean, this might be just
That's
common
me.
knowledge for every single person, but I'm still amazed that you can be there for like 2-3 hours.
I know. I'm worried that that's going to change because I feel like
Depends where you
Paris
go.
is getting New Yorky.
Places, yeah.
Some
does
places,
depend.
some places
Like
are even
DVD
saying don't bring your
editions.
computers now, and I'm like, well, you're off my list. I love a cafe where everyone. I discovered a lovely cafe right there in the Village Charonne, Place de la Réunion, and there were 6 people in there with their computers working, and it just was a villagey place where everybody knew everyone. That's because we have apartments this big, so that is your salon. That's where you are out in the world, but at the same time you're at home.
Sure.
That is my favorite. It's to do nothing. I'm Patty Sadowska, so I spend way too much time in cafes with. We have literally spent the entire rainy, cold day going from one cafe to the next. Well, we'd walk 10 feet and go, well, then now let's go into this one. And it is just, it's heaven. It's the only place where I can really just sit with my dogs, and that's where inspiration comes.
Great. Last question, easy one. I know the answer, but where's the best view? Tell everybody your favorite view. in
Yeah,
Paris.
this is the tip for tourists. yes, the Eiffel Tower is wonderful, but don't go up it. Go to Tour Montparnasse, because you have these gorgeous views of Paris with the Eiffel Tower, and none of the views with the pesky Tour Montparnasse. It's like Adrian Leeds always says, do you want to be in an old building with views of ugly new buildings, or would you rather be in the new modern building with views of the lovely old buildings? And after I've been in an apartment with a leak for 2 years, I'm on board with the new building with the old view. And this is that same idea.
Do you know, didn't the guy that, someone, if anyone knows, tell me right now, but there's someone that said he only liked to have lunch in the Eiffel Tower so he didn't have to look at the Eiffel Tower.
Oh.
Who was that? Was it Guy de Jouvin or Guy de Maupassant or something like that?
Yeah.
So, an author said this is years ago.
Well, because they thought it was going to be temporary and they couldn't wait for it
Right,
to
they
tear
hate
down.
it. But
20
funnily
years
enough, now the same things are being said by authors in Paris about the Montparnasse.
Well, sorry.
No, not at all. That's really interesting.
It
That's
just
great.
doesn't fit.
You can typical.
And the glass truck agrees with me.
But yeah, so you can go up to the top for the cocktail or the very top for the view.
And that's the best part. At the top, you can have a cocktail.
Expensive cocktail.
Yeah, but you know, if you're here once in a year or once in a lifetime and you want that great view, to me that is one of the most romantic places. Inside that tower, with the view of the city and the Eiffel Tower in that shot.
You could probably see April from the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Because she'll
Looking
be
at each
there,
other.
because she loves to go up in it, and I'm like, don't make me go up in that.
On that note, thank you for being on the Eiffel Tower again. It's Anselmo. I have booked my part-time Paris life. And this is episode 4 when she was on. Those were the early days. We didn't know.
It was great.
I had no idea what I was
We
doing
were at
back
the
then.
radio station.
That's right. Yeah, changed. Got a little studio now. Chambre de bonne maid's quarters. My studio was about the size of this table, actually.
It's about right.
Okay, listen to this one. What's your Paris secret or hidden spot? I don't think they really understood. Or maybe this is a secret. The secret is I'm marrying the host of the Eiffel Tower. And then they put in brackets Oliver, not Adrian. Lena, my fiance. Come on, I think we should have a chat.
Hi everyone. I think you outed me a bit before earlier then.
Oh yeah, I already
so
know.
it wasn't.
We can
a
imagine some of
secret.
the live viewers maybe tuned in later and they didn't.
Exactly.
Anyway, so why I wanted to get, besides, I actually told Lena as well to just write something that doesn't really matter because I wanted to talk about what we're going to do is something to look forward to, and you don't have to subscribe to enjoy this one. This is something that we're going to be doing. So essentially, we're going to get married in what, a month? It's like a month?
Yeah, wow. It's going really quickly now.
Yeah, so we're going to get married in a month, and then I like that there was one clap there. I'm pretty happy about it. I'm feeling lucky. But what we're going to do, how it affects, not really affects, but how you guys can all see something cool, is we're going to do our honeymoon as we're going to share a lot of the stuff that we see. And I thought maybe you could explain, so I don't do all the talking.
Okay.
Because it was your idea as well.
It was my idea. So the idea is... Yeah, so for the honeymoon, which is going to start at the mid-August, 15th of August, we are, well, Oliver has this red scooter that he drives around Paris on.
Like a Vespa.
Yeah, it's like a little... Yeah.
Except it's not a Vespa, and I'm not sponsored by Vespa. Let's figure that out.
Yet. It's like a
Thank you.
no-brand scooter.
If
No brand.
Vespa's watching. Does anyone here work at Vespa?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. And so yes, this red little scooter, we are gonna take this around all of France in a massive heart shape. So yeah, it's a bit of a gimmick, and we don't
It's
really
an
know.
absolute- it is a
It's
gimmick.
only a gimmick.
But
But we're gonna try. We're gonna try to do it as well as we can. It's gonna be a very ugly heart. If we look at the actual route, it's not really.
But what happened is we were talking because we wanted to. We traveled. In fact, we traveled last year. We drove in a car from New York to LA.
Yes.
And it was an amazing trip. We probably went to a lot of states where a lot of people in this room are from because we did it in a really unusual way. We sort of went like this. And we did it in such a way that, for example, once we were in what was it? Albuquerque? Is that New Mexico? Yeah, so we were there, and then Lena said, "Oh, I just remembered that my dad went to a high school in central Kansas. Where's that on the map?" And we looked at the map, and it's literally like a couple of days drive back where we came. And we were like, "All right, let's just do it."
Yeah.
So we did it.
Yeah,
Because we really didn't have a.
The perception of time was
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah, and that was right.
For
That was
some
right
reason.
after I just quit my job, so we could sort of. We had time.
We felt frivolous.
Yeah.
But it was a car, not a vest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the items we're going to take is a mad idea.
This is ambitious.
But I think it's going to be really interesting because with and the reason we're sharing something that's often quite private, a honeymoon, I think, is partly because this is my job now, and it's quite hard to justify taking a long time off work without continuing to do something. And I thought the Earful Tower usually showcases Paris. I've been doing it for a year and a half, and sort of the criticism I sometimes get is France is a lot more than Paris. And I thought, well, you want Paris? No.
You want France?
That's right. We'll show you
Edit
France.
that.
Yeah, I love it. But we figured we'd literally, we drew it on a map, the kind of the most interesting places. And everybody here, if you guys have tips for things to see in France,
Please
I would
let
love
us
to
know,
hear 'em.
because we need it. We know nothing about France, and that's what we're here to. Well, we're trying to change that.
Exactly. So we put dots on kind of the interesting cities or the things that people were recommending. And Lena looked at it and she was, because France is kind of this shape with Paris in the middle. And when she drew a line around sort of where we wanted to drive, it actually kind of looked.
Yeah, it very much resembled a heart.
If you can imagine, if you close your eyes, so like
Basically
peeling
close
off
your
up towards Brittany and down towards Marseille, along that whole west coast, and then back up on the east coast through Champagne and through sort of northern France, back to Paris again. And we just assumed it would take about 6 weeks to do. Until
Something like that?
Until about 3 days ago, our landlord told us that they'd sold the apartment that we live in.
And we are homeless.
We're getting home. So they said move
Well,
out
not
by mid-September. We're like, oh, we're going to be on honeymoon then.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, sorry about that.
So we might extend it.
So we're just going to extend it. We're going to have a long honeymoon. No, we are, I think. Because we got nowhere to come back to. But what we're going to do, the two of us, is we're going to do this kind of stuff, these videos and episodes. We're going to meet people around the country.
Yeah, we already have somewhat of an itinerary. Is that what you said?
Exactly, yeah. Lena's Swedish.
I'm
by the way.
Swedish.
She's
yes,
in her
so
second language.
excuse
Go
my
easy.
lingo.
But what happened, what was really cool is people listening to this show. So I actually looked at the stats before I came here today. Is that the show has been listened to in 162 countries, right? Which I thought was, I think, what is that? 190 countries, 191.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, right. So people, when I mentioned that we were going to do this honeymoon trip, like almost straight away we got this email from this guy. He said his name's Jim. He goes, hey, my name's Jim. I've been listening to the podcast from the beginning. You never heard from me, but I just wanted to say thanks for what you've been doing. And I live in Australia, but I have a little sort of summer cottage in Charente, which I looked up on the map is like near the coast on the west. And he goes, as a wedding gift, you guys can use it.
Wow.
So that's so nice.
So generous.
So nice of you. So I read his email out on the next episode, and then more offers like that started coming in. So it's been really these listeners from around the world, that lovely listeners.
Yes, just amazing.
So yeah, we're gonna go and showcase a lot of these places. So
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask you while you're up here is this interview as well, and because your answers were all joke answers by the look of it. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, and remember these guys haven't listened to the episode, so you can say the other things, the things that you want to do around France while we're traveling.
Okay, so we basically try to plan out the first week a little bit more precisely, so we know what we're getting into and to see what we could potentially do in a week. And it's amazing. So we start off live. So the first day we're going to go to Chantilly. So which
Has
is
anyone been
just
to Chantilly?
yeah. Is it good? Good place to start. Okay, good.
Because that's also because it's only 40 kilometers away.
Oh, it's just
We're not sure how long the scooter will last for.
we make it to Chantilly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to. Well, that's a birthplace of whipped cream, if I understood things correctly. It was the
From its what were its parents?
Shaken off cow.
So you want to do a whipped cream for them?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And after that, we are heading towards the coast, towards Deauville, and where Coco Chanel had her first shop. By the way, she started off selling hats.
So you should add that Lena, by the way, what Lena does.
I'm a designer, so I am very into that kind of thing.
Lena's a shoe designer and
Yes.
an illustrator.
Yes.
I'm giving everyone a plug. I'll give you a plug as well. You guys, Deuxième Studios started in the second hour of this month in the studio.
Yeah.
And Parisian postcards for her illustrations. But what I wanted you to say as well, and we can end on this, because I got a lot of emails from it because people thought it was so weird, is you seem to be obsessed with milking a French cow.
Oh, yes. Yes, well, it was one of those things that it came into my head, and I thought it'd be really fun to make a French cow, and I happened to mention this during the episode where we were talking, and I was just like, spur of the moment, like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool to milk a cow, and I got lots of potential cows.
That was one thing that people stuck on.
People seem to really connect with that. They're like, yeah, my uncle has a farm, and you should go here, and he's got great cows, and he's got woolly pigs, and I'm like, what's a woolly pig? Yeah, it's great.
I think we got potential French cows in like maybe 8 farms around.
So
You should wear a milkmaid outfit.
I should.
So yeah, so that's something that starts August 15th.
Yes.
That I mean, it's going to be a lot of interesting videos and pictures anyway. So you guys, please consider following on Facebook or Instagram the Earful Tower for that journey.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting trip. So if we make it. I mean,
we don't know. We need the services.
Yeah, if there are any scooter experts, that's something we need to talk about. But anyway, thank you for being on the Earful Tower. Yeah, Lena. Okay.
You got 15 minutes left.
Okay, how many interviews should I try and get through in 15 minutes? Let me hear a number. 5? 3. Okay, we do 4, right in the middle. 4 people, that's about 3.5 minutes each, exactly. Okay, so the next person they wrote as their name, guess. Does anyone have any guesses who that might have been? Adrian Leeds, come on. Yes, I can do it. Yeah, I think so. Why not? Anyway, you only get 3.5 minutes.
Okay,
because you've already been on and we've already talked about it. I haven't even read what you've written, but the guest bit got me. But you wrote here your favourite thing to do in Paris, July 14th, fireworks.
Yes.
Talk me through it.
I
Where?
love to picnic on the Champ de Mars, starting at about 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and wait on July 14th, and wait all day, hang out all day until the fireworks.
You're one of the people to get there early for the
Oh
best
yes,
space.
to get the and have a really big blanket,
Yeah.
so you can stake out
Just
the
for
terrace.
yourself? You just
No, I invite everybody,
Okay.
and we just stake out a big spot and hang out all day, and then watch the fireworks and go home.
What time do you get there in the morning?
3 or 4 in the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever tried any other spaces, or is that always where you go for?
Yes, have done the Esplanade des Invalides.
Okay, with the big grassy bit out the front.
Yes,
Oh,
and it's okay. It's pretty good, not bad. There's more space,
Nice
but
grass.
it's not the same view.
No.
The view with the Eiffel Tower silhouetted by the fireworks is sensational.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can tell everybody where not to go for the same fireworks because I got it wrong last year.
Which
is
was
you
where?
don't go to the backside of the Sacré-Cœur. Don't go there.
Don't think so.
Not just because you're behind the building, but when I was there, it was so packed. All the road was so packed, and then cars were trying to get through. And when the cars were getting through, people were hitting the cars. Horrible. Absolutely
Okay,
horrible.
we won't do that.
We got, I think, 1 minute left. What's your top tip for a tourist in Paris? Say bonjour.
Say bonjour.
It sounds obvious, but explain.
Well, actually, the Bonjour Effect, which is a book, explains it best because the word bonjour is not really bonjour. It's what's called a fatic, meaning it's a fatic.
Bless you.
It's a symbol for saying to someone, I'm in your presence, would you please acknowledge me?
Okay.
So if you don't say bonjour first, they're never going to let you into their space. Basically. So you have to say bonjour, no matter else what you're doing, even if you're dying, you're bleeding, you need help, forget it. You have to say bonjour, I'm dying, I need help.
When an ambulance arrives.
No, it's true.
Okay, well, a lot of seeing that there's been a book written about that, and a few other people wrote "Say Bonjour," we can take that as gospel.
Okay.
And we'll end on that note. Merci for being in the hot seat. And for hosting this event, everyone. Thank you, guys. Next person. It's very similar to what the bit I circled was. What's your top tip for a tourist? Is be friendly and smiley. I still want to get this person up here, Margot. I'm not sure. You've written a few interesting things we can get through in 3.5 minutes. But you're the first person I've not properly met before. Who are you?
Oh my God. I told my mother when I was 11 years old that my ambition in life was to go to Paris. And I came here when I was 18 and I kept coming and now I live here.
Dreams do come true, right? And when did you, how long ago did you move here?
November, early November.
So you're brand new to Paris? As in living here? Or?
I lived here. I was married to a professor of French literature, an American, and we would come for a sabbatical or bring the junior year abroad here and things like that. So I lived here for stretches of time, but now I've just planted myself here.
Cool. And whereabouts do you live?
I live about 4 blocks from here.
Not bad. The Marais, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've written a similar thing to what Adrian said. You said if you're friendly and you're smiley, the Parisians 90% of the time will respond in the same way. What happens the other 10%?
You're usually talking to somebody who doesn't want to look bad. And I've said something that they don't quite understand, and they're not going to come off being knowledgeable. And so they're just going to be cold, and they're going to make me walk because they're afraid to look wrong. Or else they're having a bad day, like a regular person has a bad day. But I've seen this evolve since I started coming here in the 60s. That people were more cold, and a lot of Americans would say, "I love Paris, but I hate the Parisians." And then I don't know what happened, but there's been a shift, and I see that people are smiling. I walk down the street sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, and people are smiling at me. Those are the Americans now. It might be the Americans, but we've changed the environment, and people from other cultures who are more smiley. I think that immigration is a good thing.
I think yes, good point. I think it's interesting that you said you've been coming here since the 60s. A lot of people think Parisians are rude, like not just not smiling, but rude. And I've only been here a couple of years. You've got much more insight into it. What's the definitive answer? Is that a myth?
Now it's a myth.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you had much experience with rude people in recent years? How has that changed?
I really haven't encountered any rude people.
You've never,
Not in the last 3 or 4 years.
Do you want to, I'll tell you something about rude. I've lived here 3 years, I have one rude thing that happened. Okay. And maybe you've been here a lot longer, you can be my therapist and tell me if I was wrong or... So I was, and I want to stress this is one rude thing that's happened to me. A lot of people that say French people are rude. I was in a cafe and I went to buy drinks at the bar. And I didn't know at the time there's different prices at the bar as if you sit at a table, which is something for other people to maybe keep in mind. And so I bought they said to me, "You're going to be sitting at the table or at the counter?"
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, I'll be at the counter." Right? So they gave me the drinks and I paid for them. And then there was a table that freed up. So I carried the drinks, 3 drinks. I did something wrong here. But I didn't know, right? So I'm carrying the drinks over and I get to the table where we're about to sit. I was about that far from the table. And this waitress came over, and maybe 50 years old. And she looked at me and she said, "Are you English?" And I'm Australian, but I was like, "Yeah," just to play it safe. And she took the drinks out of my hand and put them on the table, and she said, "In France, we have waiters," like that. And I was like, I freaked out. But I realized that maybe it seemed rude, but maybe it wasn't. I wanted to take on it.
Probably because she thought you were being rude.
That sounds likely. But is that something that tourists or people who live here, foreigners, should be mindful of?
Absolutely. You might make a faux pas, and go against the grain, and people, you know, feel a little kind of cringe, and then they'll say something that you interpret as rude. Or maybe they are rude. I mean, there were rude people everywhere.
That's true.
The people in a bad mood, the people who are just grouchy people.
I would love to keep talking to you, but I realise I've got 2 more quick interviews to do, so I'd say thank you to you, Margot. Is there anything you want to plug? A Facebook page, a brand, anything? This is your chance.
Oh my God.
You've got 4,000 people.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll say this. This is a declaration to the world that I don't think I've ever done. I started a webpage and a blog. I started on a boat in Croatia, floating in the Adriatic Sea, and it is called Joyful Narrative.
Joyfulnarrative.com?
Yeah.
Joyfulnarrative.com. Big hand for Joy. 2 more, I think we're down to 3 minutes each. I like this one. Okay, where it says, what's your top tip for a tourist in Paris? It says, do not lose your apartment keys. There's a story I want to hear. Who is Martha? Martha? Oh, here we go, Martha. Second last, that means we've got 3 minutes, Martha.
Oh man, all right. Do it in 3 minutes.
I feel this is a family-friendly show, right? Tell me, is there a story? Is there a story that goes with don't lose your apartment keys?
Well,
did something happen?
Oh yes, of course. I was in an apartment here in the rain, and so I went out for an early.
Were you a tourist or you living here?
No, I'm not. I was a tourist.
At the time, okay.
Yeah, but I was here for 3 months. All right, so I went out for an early morning walk. Had my, you know, early
Where's your
morning,
accent
right?
from? Where are you from? What state?
Tennessee.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that where Dolly Parton's from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Elvis Presley.
And Elvis Presley. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
And B.B. King.
And Johnny Cash?
Yes.
Okay. I love your accent. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, so you're 3 months in the Marais.
But this was early one morning, so I go out and I have my apartment key. And I put it in my jogging pants, I thought, anyway. So I get back to the apartment after about an hour walk, and I go, and I knew my husband was with me at that time, and he had the key, of course, another key. So when I get back, I knock on the door, he comes, he says, why aren't you using your key? I said, I lost my key. You lost your key? Did you know what the landlord told us? And I said, yes, but you want to go help me find the key? He said, in the Marais? We're going to walk around the Marais to try to find the key. So I said yes, and we tried a little bit, and I got back, and he said, we got to call the landlord, so we did, and he said, 700 euros.
That was a bargain. Is that why you carry them on your...
And that was a bargain.
Yes,
Yeah, it could be
700
twice
euros to replace the key, the lock, the master, all of it, you know. So anyway, we had to pay the $700.
Hello?
Yeah, and so this is the key. The landlord said, well, you know, we need the key back. And my husband said, you know, what about that? He kept the key. So we had the keys replaced, and he had the new keys, but we kept the old key. So when we go back to Memphis, I take the keys, and this one I found several years later when I was walking in Paris. Added that to my collection. And then I had this one, which is a very old key in Paris that I was given as a gift. So I said to this artist in Memphis, please design me this wonderful necklace with all of it. It's one of the most expensive necklaces I have.
Hearing that story makes me understand why you've written that your favorite hidden spot in Paris is the Keys Lost and Found area. But to be honest, I don't think we're going to get a better story or better guest than Martha. So I think you're the last. Martha, thank you very much. That's what I love. We can't top that, guys. There's no way we're going to top Martha's story.
You have a Q&A now.
I have a Q&A now, but I think we're going to stop the live video. So I'm just going to say just a quick message to you guys at home. I don't know who's watching or if there's been any comments. Thanks for watching. I'll come back and answer comments later. Plenty more walk shows on the way. You heard of them. The people that are going to be doing them. Craig, what are we doing, Craig?
Walk tour, the Latin Quarter.
Latin Quarter with Craig and many more, I think, looking for keys on the ground probably. But thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you soon for some more walk shows.
Thank you, Oliver.